Hi everybody. Our next session is from Sandro Pereira, who is very active in the Microsoft integration community. His blog must be one of the most visited ones in the community, and he has also published many blogs and white papers in our BizTalk 360 website. His BizTalk mapping patterns ebook is amongst the most downloaded white papers in the website. Join us while Sandro discusses BizTalk Server 2020 migration path.
Thank you, Lex. So I will not take too much long speaking about myself. Lex already did a good job. A few days ago, some community member told me that I was a legend. I'm not. I'm just a normal guy working for many years on the integration space. But to be fair, my little girl chose that T-shirt for me because she told me that I'm a superhero for her. So I'm happy to do that, to be that. You have my contacts there. Feel free to reach me out if you have any question, any doubt, or if you need some help. I will be most gladly to try to help you guys. So, as all years, in the last few years, I normally give some gifts to you. This year is remotely due to this COVID situation. I hope you guys are all well and safe. But I already had this sticker printed out. Unfortunately, I cannot give you in person, but you have here the URLs. You can download it. And this is my new BizTalk 2020 sticker. I hope you like it and enjoy it. So this session will be about migration, BizTalk server migration. And the first question that you may wonder is why you need to upgrade your BizTalk server platform, no? And the only real reason is loss of support, okay? If you are using old versions of BizTalk, you will be out of support. And if you face some issues, you will not be able to have the better support that you need. So if you are an enterprise client and you have critical missions, you want to be on support. Of course, there are other reasons, small reasons, like environment constraints. So BizTalk depends on SQL Server and Windows Server, and these new versions of these products bring some advantages, some new features that you could use by using a new edition of BizTalk, a new release of BizTalk. And of course, there is small improvements during these last years of BizTalk. 2020 will and 2016 will have better privacy and security for GDPR. This is great, no? Always encrypted, TLS 1.2. This new version has support for XSLT 3.0. So you asked this feature for many years, you have it here, no? And of course, if you know BizTalk 2016, we have now feature packs that doesn't necessarily need a new version of the product to have new features added to your platform. And 2020 goes to the same way, no? So you may expect some additional features being added as a feature pack. So we don't need wait 3 years or 2 years for a new version of the product. And of course, you can this move to cloud stuff. You are better moving to cloud and hybrid. Okay, you have better hybrid features for having hybrid integrations, logic app, even storage account, service bus, whatever. No, even running on VMs in the cloud. That happened since 2013. And of course, minor stuff, developer and administration productivity. So new Visual Studio, new .NET framework, and new admin console features in 2016. So these will are the reason that you need to migrate to other platforms. I will speak here about migration in general from since 2004 to 2020. No, so what are my options for migrations? So you can migrate to cloud, first option, or you can migrate to a new version of the product. In this case, we saw 2020, because if you are migrating, it doesn't make sense to migrate to another version that we saw 2020, you know? So if you go to the option migrate to cloud, there are two options on this situation. First is migrate as infrastructure as a service. So you are just migrating your virtual machine to the cloud and running on the cloud. And I have to say that 75% of my clients are using this approach, using Azure to host virtual machines to run BizTalk. I don't remember the last client recent environments that I'm running on a local environment or an in-house environment on the client. Most of them are using, or all of them are using Azure virtual machines. So that's the easy option, no? Because you have the same capabilities, you just put in Azure, the VMs on Azure, and you have this all high ability stuff running in multiple regions and all of this stuff, okay? And the second option is migrate to Azure service. And then you are moving out from BizTalk and put your integration in a different kind of platform or service. So let's look to migrate to BizTalk Server to the Azure service. So it is a complete redesign on an integration solution. You need to think in a different way. Even, and John mentioned this new BizTalk migration tool, which is amazing, which will give you, I hope, give you many things, information how you can do that. But don't hope for a magic button and you click and just migrate everything and it will automatically deploy all the stuff and you are be like, yeah, I migrate all my BizTalk to the cloud. It will not happen because it is completely different way to work and think. You have no message box. If you want to use like PubSub or persistence, you need to use, for example, service bus. Okay? If you have custom code, just you have to use Azure functions. You don't have all the connectors, or the connectors will be different. So it is, I hope it will be a tool that will give you many highlights and will help you migrate, but it's not the magic button. So you also have this kind of rapid release cadence, no? If you are working in BizTalk, we need to wait 2 or 3 years, at least since BizTalk 2006, but even with 2006, it's the same. You have new features, but kind of small features. But you need to wait for 2, 3 years to have radical changes if they happen, okay? If they happen. Because if you look back, and honestly speaking, the core features of BizTalk 24 is still available in 2020. So it's very stable product with new improvements. With Azure, it's completely different. You have releases almost every week, and you have new stuff being added. For example, new actions being deprecated, and you don't want to be on that situation. So if you have deprecate actions, you may need to rethink fast to migrate or improve to have new actions, because honestly, I don't know if they will remove it or not, but I hope some point they will. So you need to also, it's not like you make a process and you stay there for years. You also have to improve that process on a regular basis. And there is no one-to-one mapping feature. So you cannot say, okay, I have this orchestration, I will run the logic app. I have this custom code I will run as a function. I have a message box I will run as a storage account, or sorry, a service bus. No, there are multiple choices here. So if you have one process, you may run in a logic app, or you can use Azure functions to be somehow, in some cases, more performant. You may use custom coding using Azure functions also, but sometimes you may go to an API. It's an option. It depends on the scenario and your goals. You have multiple choice, no? And then there are some missing features that they are not yet available. For example, business rules. If you have business rule, you have to recreate in some kind of service to have this feature on Azure. No? So it's good to have almost or every help we can, but it's a completely different way to do stuff, which is great. Don't get me wrong. Okay, it's just not like a direct migration. So if you think about migrating BizTalk to a new version of BizTalk since 2004, 6 or 10 to 2020, then what are your options? So you still have two options: in-place upgrade, and to be honest, I never done in my life in a production environment this kind of upgrade. It's too risky. Okay? Many things can fail, and you cannot perform that task in all kind of scenarios. It depends on the installation you have, the components you have, the SQL, the Windows Server version. Then you may be allowed to do an in-place upgrade or not. Or you need to migrate your solutions to a brand new environment, okay? And that's the easier and the secure, and all my clients do this kind of approach. This approach is recreating a new environment and migrate the solutions to this new environment. So if you are trying to do an in-place migration, then you can only do that for from BizTalk 2016. If you are using other old versions, forget about it. If you are using 2016, you may be able to do that. If you are using, for example, Windows Server 2016 or 10, I never use 10 because this is a server, so I only using Windows SO servers SO. And you can do that if you're using SQL Server 2016. So if you're using 2004, forget about it. You are not able to do that. And if you are using, for example, Evaluation Edition, just delete that. You cannot do nothing with that. If you are using a branch, you can migrate to a branch edition. If you are using a developer, you can migrate to enterprise. According to the documentation, I don't know why you are not possible to migrate to a developer edition also. But according to the documentation, you are only able to do enterprise. A standard, you can migrate to a standard or enterprise, and enterprise to enterprise. That's okay. But also there are some constraints. For example, SQL Adapter was completely removed from 2020. So if you are using, you may have some issues there. Typical Enterprise Master Service Adapter also is now support only in 24 bits. So depend on your configuration. And Rosetta Net has some issues on 2020 that you need to install hotfix to be able to run it properly. So again, it's too risky. You need to upgrade. I don't know also the reason to upgrade your BizTalk and stay in the old system operative. So I prefer to do everything in a brand new environment. At least I will be on the last versions of each product. I told that SQL Adapter was completely removed from 2020, but Microsoft BizTalk Product Group decided recently to publish this adapter and you are free to download it and install in your 2020 environment. Don't use this adapter, but if you have an old solution that uses a lot of this adapter and you still didn't migrate, just continues to update, you can now use it and do as is migration. But I advise you to migrate that as soon as you can for the new WCF SQL adapter. Now, if you are choosing to migrate to a new environment, you still have two options, okay? Inside, migrate the solutions as is without any non-mandatory changes. Just do small tweaks and the basic for them to run as is on the old environment. That's the quickest way to migrate all the solutions from one old environment to this new one environment. Normally, and you will see in the next slide, it's just sometimes just a matter of open Visual Studio, fix the .NET version, strong name keys, deployment properties, and rebuild. Easy as that, okay? But also depends on your type of integration and solution and what kind of features you are. You know? And we'll go there for later on. And the most difficult one is migrate and improve. Then here you will need to analyze your solution. You need to speak with your teams, the business, and check what kind of problems or improvements they would like to have, and then implement that changes. And of course, it will requires a more prolonged phase of testings because we are changing the solution. Okay. So, in general, as is or non-as is, what is the effort for you to migrate to 2020? And this is not exact numbers. This is my numbers, my idea, my perspective, and from more than 16 years of working with BizTalk, the effort being involved of migrating a BizTalk solution. Migrating the code and deployment, it is normally an easy task, okay? So in general, it will be 15% of your work. Of course, there are exceptions, don't get me wrong. If you have a crazy solutions, a complicated solution, or using old stuff, for example, using SQL adapter or the old SAP adapter from 2004 and migrate to 2020, then you will require additional work. So you need to create schemas and so on, mappings, orchestration, maybe. There are also some strategies to minimize the effort, but yeah, you have more effort. But in general, and if you are using recently solutions or versions of the product, that is an easy task, no? 30% will be building the environments. It's not that it's difficult to build an environment and a cluster environment with always on high ability and so on, but it will require a lot of testings, connectivity to all the systems surrounding. So it is normally, sometimes, it depends on also on the teams that you are encountering in clients. Some are more difficult than others. That can be a more difficult task. But most of the work is about testing and tuning and optimizations of BizTalk. Testing can be a nightmare because you need to be aligned with all the teams, and some of them are not really available. So testing this kind of integration can be difficult. It will take time. And tuning also, because you may have a lot of documentation about your solution, But documentation about all the tuning that you made in 2004 and you are migrated to 2020, that will be difficult to figure out. And I faced this problem recently when we try to, when we entered the testing phase, the numbers didn't fit to the requirements of the clients. And you had to go to all of these layers and try to understand what kind of tunings that we did or they did in the 2004 and replicate in 2020. So it is a difficult challenge. But if you are looking to the other way and in the source code, what are the painful artifacts to migrate? And I will have to say that mappings may be critical because in 2013 we have a new mapping engine. I will get that back in the next slide. But if you are migrating, why is it? If you are in 2016, it's shameless. But if you are using old versions, that will take some problems of you. ADI and ADI, why? Because in 2010 there was a new TPM, so it was re-engineered. So if you are in the old version, you may face some issues there. SQL and SAP adapter were removed, so you may have some issues there. Schemas, orchestrations, adapters, pipelines, it's just rebuilt normally, but I will get in that in the future, in the next slides. I put there community work frameworks because some of them take longer time to be available on these new versions. For example, I am the bad example also. Schedule adapter is not yet available for you guys, so I'm working on that, but it's still not available. BTDF, I think, is not available also. Most of you guys like that deployment framework. But the fun is, and you have this source code available, so you can go there and improve that and make it available also. And Rosetta Net, because why? Rosetta Net was built on SQL adapter, the old SQL adapter. And if you do a lot of custom stuff there on the SQL side, you may need to face some issues. And there is a bug that you need to install some hotfix. So that's the painful artifacts that I figure out that migration may be some issues. But if you go one by one, like custom adapters, custom pipelines, custom functoids, you just rebuild and deploy. Okay, it's simple as that. You just need to worry about IDs, may have some conflict. Schemas, schemas is the same in 2004, no? It's almost no difference. You may have some problems with schemas because the adapters were removed. So SAP adapter and SQL adapter were removed. So you need to, the generated schemas, you need to regenerate, but that's schema, that's the adapter's fault, not the schema itself. Orchestrations, I just found in 2013 a small issue about string concatenation inside an expression shape. The rest is just build and deploy. That's it. BAM portal is deprecated in 2020, so you may have some issues there. Nevertheless, it's available and it's 100% compatible. So if you want to use it, is deprecated, but you are still able to use. Okay. So maps, this is the principal problem, because in 2013 there was a new mapping engine, and this mapping engine is not 100% compatible. You can minimize this effort by running the whole, or just in some cases check and fix the maps. Again, this is only happens if you are using an old version of the product. If you are using a recent one, you are just building and redeploy it. But the problem with the previous one is that some of the errors you cannot check on the build. You need to try it in execution time. Of course, once again, SQL adapter and the old adapter of SAP was removed. So you have to generate schemas to recreate and change. You have two options there: change everything, mappings, orchestrations, and so on and so forth, or just create a map on the receive port and a map on the send port, and on the receive migrate mapping to the old schema, and on the send, migrate to the new schema. And then all the orchestrations and so forth and so on will work the same. That will minimize your effort. Again, ADI, there is a new TPM. It was completely engineered. There was a migration party tool that helps you migrate that, but you still need to you have a new engine, so you need to test it properly. Business rules is just export, import, nothing changed. FID was removed some versions ago. So if you are using the old version of FID, you need to redesign to use other features like cloud and so on and so forth. And human workflow service was removed. It should never exist on BizTalk. But if you are using that on the old version, forget about it. You need to re-engineer that and put, for example, in SharePoint. No? And I'm talking about this feature because I'm addressing migrating since 2000 to 2020, okay? So how hard it be in general? And from 13 to 16, it's an easy task. No, it's just build small tweaks and that's it. From 2010, depending on the features, it can be easy or migrate. Most of the time, it's an easy task. No, just migrate and that's it. But if you are using maps with not well done or crazy stuff there, you need to redesign or tweak a lot of these maps. Again, from 2009 to 2004, it can be a little hard, but in general, in the normal and basic stuff, it will be fine. It will require extra work with ADI and mappings, but in general, it's just redeploy and that's it. Now, from 2000 to 2002, forget about trash it, migrate to Logic App because you need to redesign everything or redesign everything on BizTalk side, okay? Now, me and Tom are writing a book about migration, BizTalk migration. It's a working process. We start in the last year, but we didn't know where, when, and have access to 2020 version, so we postponed. And then when we have it, this COVID situation happened, and it's been a little difficult to write and have time to write, but it's a starting in progress. And we will write it and we will publish on BizTalk 360. So I hope it will be soon. And you will be able to have some highlights more deeply on this topic. And that's it. I hope you like it. I still have 2 minutes to Q&A.
Yes, Sandro, yes, yes, well done, indeed. You can check that Q&A window. There are quite some questions. You can check that middle pane, accepted. So indeed, yeah, well, we can still have a look at a couple of these questions. And also, when we need to terminate the session, the Q&A section will still be available. So also to your audience, if you have any questions or want any conversation with Sandro, please carry on also
okay, so
behind.
You'll have 2 minutes. Legacy SQL adapter. The easy way to find the link is go to the browser and do this. No, I don't think it's still, but let me put on the screen. That's it. Wait about. So is tech community. So tech community as a BizTalk server team blog, you will find there a legacy SQL adapter and you can download it, okay? The slides will be available soon also in the video so you can watch later. what scenarios can performance gain be expected when moving to a late? Well, you know that mainly the engine of BizTalk is SQL Server. So if you are migrating from an old version of SQL and go to the new SQL, you will find a lot of improvements on the SQL side. And if it's the engine is better, you will gain some performance for sure about that. In BizTalk side, BizTalk is just the service running. So we will find a lot of improvements on the SO also. And during the years, we had improvements about adapters, new poolings, new fixes. We had a support ticket with MQ adapter and is now pulling in the milliseconds. So you will have improvements. And I think I end my time. I will try to reply these on the offline and I write the answers here, okay? I hope you enjoy it and hopefully to see you next year in person in London. Bye.
Covey.co